So I'm not a violent man. I don't believe in using my fist to settle things. But I punched the rabbi, and I would do it again. So understand that my family, we were not religious Jews. We were cultural Jews. We went to services twice a year, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. My father, for 20-some years, managed the temple cemetery, which wasn't that religious a thing. And even after they retired to Florida, my dad's involvement in the synagogue was that once a month he got together with the men's brotherhood for their monthly meeting, which generally consisted of going out for barbecue and then going to a strip club. So I guess Reform Judaism. When my mother died just over 2 years ago, she had left quite specific instructions. She didn't want to be buried, she wanted to be cremated. Now, that is generally not how things work in Judaism. But that's what she wanted. We took care of it. And then we called up the cemetery back in Detroit, the one my father had managed for all those years. And we found out that over the years, the cemetery had changed hands. And it was now owned by an Orthodox Jewish group. And they don't do cremation or allow the burial of cremated remains. And my father did some negotiating with this rabbi, who was in charge now. And the rabbi agreed, because my father had previously managed the cemetery, agreed to turn a blind eye. So one night, under the cover of darkness, my father and cousin Larry took a couple of shovels, went to the cemetery, and put Mom's urn in the ground. Problem solved. Until a month later when my father died. Now, he had also left specific instructions. Put him in his blue suit, cheapest box available, no frills. Bury him in the family plot, next to my mother, next to his parents. Should have been easy. And we called up the rabbi and explained that this is what we were going to do, and the rabbi said, absolutely not. Under Orthodox Jewish law, a body must be washed, wrapped in a shroud, and then buried. Well, this is not what my father had in mind. So the funeral home director, an old family friend, and my sister were on this call together, talking to the rabbi, negotiating, trying to get him to come around to the blue suit way of thinking. And he wasn't going to budge. And finally, my sister said, well, Rabbi, you already made an exception allowing him to bury our mother's cremated remains there. Can't you make another exception? And he blew up. No one was supposed to know about that. That was a private deal between me and Mr. Broder. No one was supposed to know. No more exceptions. Your father has no honor. He was not supposed to tell anyone about that. We are not going to allow any exceptions. And the funeral home director said, Rabbi, surely you expected that he was going to tell his children where their mother was buried. Oh, no. No exceptions. Must be buried according to Orthodox tradition. And there was no moving him. So my father was washed, wrapped in a shroud. My sister took his blue suit and put it in the coffin, just, in case he needed to change later. And we went out to the cemetery and buried my father next to his parents with my mother. But during the service, the rabbi came just to watch and make sure everything was, kosher. And he stood about 50 yards away and watched. And after the service was over, my Aunt Marion, now the matriarch of the family, went stomping over to this rabbi And I couldn't hear what was being said, but I could tell from the finger waggle, I had a pretty good idea what she was telling him. And then my two sisters also went over to have some words with the rabbi. And again, couldn't hear what they said, but I recognized the high-pitched tone, and I thought, I better go break this up. And I walked over, got between the three women and the rabbi, moved them back and away, go back to the car, this is done, move on. And as they left, the rabbi looked at me and said, "Oi, the women in your family are crazy." And I put one right in that rabbi's gut, because as the eldest male in the family, no one gets to call the Broder women crazy except me. It's my job now. That would be the end of the story. One addendum to it. When we unveiled my parents' headstones, we found that my father's stone had numerous typos. They spelled his name wrong, his nickname wrong, his Hebrew name wrong, his parents' name wrong. And we were going to go get a new stone, but I pointed out that my mother had worked her whole life as a proofreader. And the logical thing to do here was that we simply corrected the headstone with the proper proofreader's marks and put on Mom's initials as if she had reached up from the grave